What's going on, everybody? Today in this video I'm going to be breaking down my Elimination map. I'll be doing a full playthrough on it soon, but I just wanted to break this map down and show you guys how it's set up. This is a open world map, and it's kind of like a reboot of one of my Elimination maps, like the first map. Same terrain layout. I think I was using the Savannah terrain. So yeah, what I wanted to do in this map is I wanted to really focus on trying to give the map more life, and that's something that the original Elimination maps I didn't do. You know, I didn't focus on lighting or anything like that. I just focused on, here's a few bases, here's the landscape, go at it. And this map I wanted to do something a little bit more, so I added a lot of little things in this map. Few maps that I've worked on recently, I've been focusing a lot more on lighting, and so I wanted to kind of bring that into this map, and at the same time trying to keep it under budget, and that was another challenge to do so it could be ported over to console. So this map is available on PC as well as PlayStation and Xbox if you guys would like to check it out. And I probably will do an updated version of this map on PC, maybe allowing it to where you can have allies follow you around, like a squad follow you around, or just adding a little more features to the map that I couldn't have because of budget constraints. Alright, so let's go ahead and bring up our control zones and scripting, and there's what we've got right there. But let's talk about setting up the map, because it's open world, right? So the player can go anywhere that they want to. But let's talk about how making the map have life, you know, and adding animals when the player gets to, you know, a hut or a settlement, or adding AI. Because most of you already know it, but when there's more than 10 or 12 AI characters present on the map, the game will not spawn in any more AI. You have to kill those AI off to make room, then they'll spawn in. So it's how do you get around that, you know? How do you make it to where the main target bases actually have a decent amount of AI when the player gets there, but at the same time, while the player is exploring the map, you're getting the animals spawning in successfully. So I'll show you guys how I have that set up, because this plays a pretty big role in this map. So first thing, let's go ahead and just look at our base here. And what we've got on the roof, we have a sniper on the rooftop, and we have the target that is inside. Alright, these are two characters that are present on the map at all times. They're not set to spawn in or anything, and I would recommend making it to where any sort of AI character that's on a rooftop, or sniper, RPG, a turret gunner that's on a rooftop, or any location where the player can see these AI characters from a distance, I wouldn't recommend spawning them. Just keep them on the map at all times, but don't have too many. And in my situation, I have three main target bases. I've got that one there, and then we've got one in the town here, and then we have the one at the docks. Alright, so we'll focus on this one over here. It's a small area. So the sniper doesn't spawn in, the sniper is always on the roof. And that just allows it to where if there's any players that prefer sniping, it gives them something to do. And so if they're on a hill far away, they can see snipers, or they can see other AI that are going to spawn in. Now obviously we need more AI characters than just the sniper and the target. So we do have a few wave 1 guys. He's wave 1. I think he's wave 1. Yep. He's wave 1. And is there another one? He's wave 1. Alright, so how many was that? Was that like 4? I think that was 4. So we have 4 wave 1 guys. Now, I can't have them present on the map at all times, because if I have 4 guys present here, then I have other wave 1s present. Basically, long story short, we're racking up the amount of AI that are present on the map, and we can't do that. We can't go over 10 or 12. So I've got to spawn these wave 1 guys into the map. So we'll go ahead and go to scripting, or show scripting, and I think I gotta remember where I put it. Let me turn on the icons. I think this is it right here. Alright, so we have 4 of our AI characters set to spawn in. The trigger is a volume trigger, and it's the square one. and we have it set pretty far away from the main base or the main target building. So basically you would want to put this volume far out enough to where as soon as the player does have sight on the main base or the target building, they'll start seeing AI characters moving around. So this works really good. Then you have to think about, well, what happens when you publish the map and then the script breaks? Because scripts do tend to break in the published versions, unfortunately. So what I did for a backup was that I added a spawner, and here's a spawner right here. Now you have to be careful with these spawners, and you have to tweak them, because if you put the volume out too far away from where the initial spawning is for the AI, they will immediately unspawn from the map. And unfortunately it's very close proximity, which is really a downer. But at least it gives you a little bit of backup, because what if that script breaks and none of those wave 1 characters spawn in, but I want to have more than just the sniper and the target, right, for AI. This will allow a couple more AI characters to spawn in, and I think, how many guys do I have here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4. And then of course we go down here, and I think it's this one. And we've got the cooldown set to 500 seconds, so it takes a long time for another AI to just simply spawn in. Because you got to think the player's going to maybe take their time. If they are being stealthy, they're going to be taking their time. You don't want the cooldown to be too low and then start seeing AI spawning in front of them. That's a big no-no. And then we have wave 1, so 4 AI characters will spawn in. Kills set to 1, that really doesn't matter, because it's not going to be rearmed. Unless you want AI to respawn at these target buildings over time, then you can do it and have the rearm time set to 1,000 seconds. In this map, I actually deactivate the spawners after the target gets killed. So as soon as the target dies, I put these fire jet effects perfectly between the capsules to destroy them. And when that happens, it shuts down the spawner. Unfortunately, the AI characters that do remain that you haven't killed, they end up dying by nothing because the spawner's deactivated. It kind of kills your the immersion a little bit. But so that's how that is set up there. And that's just for a backup in case the script breaks. Now, most of the time the scripts do work fine. So the script working fine, and you're going into here, you're going to have a lot of AI characters for the most part spawning in. But the way that we have this base set up and how we have these AI characters set up, it allows us to now put in AI and spawn in AI around the map. Let me get rid of these icons. So let's take a look at this area here. We have some chickens. We have a dog. And dog has some animation points. Honestly, animals don't really need animation points because they tend to do things on their own after being spawned in for a while. But if you want the player to experience AI characters doing certain things, you know, quickly, then animation points do help. But so when the player goes into this volume, it's going to spawn in these animals, and then let me see if I can find the script. I'm gonna have to turn on icons again. All right, so here's the script. Spawn dog, spawn chicken. All right. Now all these AI characters, they are set to automatically unspawn when the player is far away. Now this is so that way when the player comes here, explores around, does whatever, the AI is here, and then when the player leaves, they will unspawn. So that way the AI is not lingering around and making it to where or future AI is not able to spawn in, because now you've racked up the amount of AI because you're not setting them to unspawn when the player's far away. So this works pretty well. And that's how we pretty much have the animals set up for the most part. We just have a volume that kind of extends outward. The AI unspawns when the player gets far away, and that's how that is set up. But if you set up all your bases, just like how I showed you guys how I set this one up, you're going to be able to cut back how much AI are present on the map, and that's going to give you the ability to spawn in AI. Now we do have another spawner here, and this spawner, when the player walks into this area, we'll spawn this guy in, we'll spawn this guy, a couple other ones. And these are just like guys that are casually patrolling around. They're not really guarding a base or anything. They're just guarding the is this the western point of the town? I don't know, I can't remember. But what we have here is we have the cooldown, 450 seconds. And then we have 3. There's actually 4 spawners, but we only want 3 to spawn in at a time. And so 3 is wave 1. Kills. When the player kills one AI character, then the rearm time the rearming starts to count down, which is 500 seconds. By that time, the player should be long out of this area, you would think. Again, you don't want to have the rearm time being too low or the cooldown being too low, because if the player is lingering around and taking their time and exploring, well, they might run into an AI spawning in front of their face or spawning right behind them, and that's a big no-no. So usually if you are spawning in AI with the spawners, again, make sure the spawning volume is not too far away, but also make sure you put the spawning areas in places where the player isn't going to easily see them pop in. It's very hard to do given the unspawn radius for the AI, but yeah, just try your best to do that, and then make it close to the center of the zone, at least. Now, I'll show you guys the town here. This is a lot to look at. Let me see if I can. Let me get a cloud moving here. And the clouds, I'm using the smoke bridge. I think that's what it's called. And that was kind of a last minute thought that I had, just to have clouds moving. It actually looks fairly nice. So, in the town, there is a spawner that will spawn an AI outside of the zone. So you can do this. But what these AI characters are supposed to do is basically be reinforcements or bad guys that are coming in from the jungles or the wilderness and coming into the town. Or it seems like they're coming out of other buildings, and they're kind of like reinforcements. But this is the rectangle. This rectangle right here is the volume. So if the player stays mainly on the main street or teeters off into the side buildings, they're going to constantly keep spawning in and coming after the player. But all the spawn points are outside of the volume, so that way the player won't see them spawning in. So, and that's another way. That's another thing that you can do, is have your AI spawner, and then just pop them. Have the AI actually spawning outside of the zone, so that way they don't see them coming in. But it all really is depending on what you're trying to accomplish. You know, if you're wanting the player to come into a location and see AI inside the location, then you have to kind of do, you know, the just like this here, this volume, where if the player comes in, then AI will spawn in here. Or if you want them to kind of come in after the player or surrounding the player, then you have the volume in the center, have the spawners outside of the volume. So that works as well. So yeah, that's how the AI is set up. And if you do it this way, like I suggested, you can add life to your map. You can add animals, you can add, you know, other spawners where enemy AI will spawn in. Unfortunately, civilians aren't, you can't connect them to spawners. That would have been amazing, because then you could have had civilians spawning in the city, and then they unspawn immediately after you leave. And yeah, it would have worked out perfectly. But unfortunately, the feature's there, But Ubisoft didn't actually make those AI characters register with the spawner, even though you can select the spawning preference. So Ubisoft kind of forgot to do that. But, so yeah, a couple other things in this map. These red damage areas, these are actually proximity mines. I've made a video on this, on how you can set up proximity mines, and I'll leave a link in the description of how you can do that. I first did these in the first elimination map that I did, so I wanted to bring those back. Now, one thing that I did in this map that I didn't do in the previous elimination ones, except elimination 3, is having allies support the player. And so every target base, or every target location, has this zone with the green flare. If you walk into it, you get some sort of support, whether it be an ally that spawns in, and here's the ally. He spawns in, and then he walks to this animation point, and then he just stays there, and then basically waits for you to make, you know, your first move and make the action happen. Once he starts hearing enemies shooting at you, then he'll engage in the fight. It's not very useful, but it's just, you know, at least he can be a little distraction. Now in the town, we actually have a ally helicopter that spawns in. Whoops. That spawns in and then flies. And sometimes he gets shot down by the time he gets here. But once he does start shooting, then, you know, he helps out a lot. And that's what he does. Now this base over here is pretty unique as far as support goes. There's no AI involved. However, it is an airstrike. And this is set up by using quite a bit of delays. Let me find the script, wherever it is. So as soon as the player walks in to the support zone, we'll call it that, it unspawns the green flare, spawns in the firework to send up the signal, right? Unspawn the circular zone, and then of course unspawn the omni light that gives off red illumination for the firework. Then you wait for 3 seconds, and after 3 seconds, we're gonna start having the oil barrel spawn in, and we have one on here, one on here. The player can't see it because they're over here, right? And then at the same time, we have, let's see, how is this? Oh, okay, so we have one oil barrel that spawns in. We have some fire effects, which I think are those. We have the fireworks that are shooting downward. Wait 2 seconds, 2 more barrels that spawn in. Oh no, these are camp small. This is what's actually, yes, that's right. So you spawn in a little campfire under the barrels. Use the oil barrels because they explode immediately in contact with fire. And so we just delay them each time to make it seem like the bombs are dropping at different times. And that's how this little airstrike is set up. And then I even went further by making parts of the building be destructible. So I'm using a destructible window here. If you move this outward, I end up using the triangle generic shapes to kind of create broken areas. And then we have some like rebar that kind of sticks outward. And I think if you move this top part of the roof, yeah, and that's how that is set up there. So that was something I decided to put in after I did the airstrike, and just wanted to make it seem like it was actually causing damage to the building. So that was cool. The other thing that I have here is, of course, the security camera trick, which I've made a video on that, and I could leave a link if you haven't seen that. But basically making an actual security camera. And the way I have that set up, and I'll go through it again here for you, is we have a volume, and that's where the camera is looking at, the direction of the camera is looking at. So when the player is crouched or walking in, to this zone, what's happening is, it's hard to see, but under this box, or in this box, there's an AI character connected to the spawner. And this is a cautious control zone to keep them facing, or animation point, I'm sorry. There is a cautious control zone that he is connected to, and that's the blue thing that you're seeing here, I think. But yeah, so he spawns in, and he'll see the player. Now, this piece here is a dynamic shape, and you can spawn these in. What this does is when the player does shoot the lens, which is a whiskey glass, the whiskey glass breaks, spawns this dynamic shape, which blocks off the vision or the sight of the AI. So it makes it so the detection meter immediately vanishes. So it makes it seem like the player was spotted, then took out the camera, and is not being seen anymore. And that is how that is set up. And I'm using the Omega, or the, what's it called? The Blood Dragon Glass Bridge. And so you can type in glass, and I think it pops up. And that makes it to where the AI doesn't actually throw things at you or shoot at you. I recommend using a brawler AI character, and that's what this character is a brawler. So you put this volume zone, or audio volume around the whole box, and that cuts off any sort of audio coming from the AI character, so you don't actually hear anybody. And it just seems like it's a security camera all along that spotted you. And that's how that's set up. Now, every single base has the ability to turn the power off. Let me get rid of control zones, because I think we're pretty much done with AI. So, over here, we have a control panel. What I did do in this map is if there's any sort of area where the player needs to maybe walk into or interact with, I end up using a spotlight and having this yellow light kind of fade in and out real slowly. Just to kind of be an indicator to let the player know, like, something's up with that. Walk up to it, and hopefully they'll know what to do. All they have to do is walk up to the box, and then the power shuts off. And the power, we have unspawning lights, unspawning spotlights, pretty much all the lights that are inside of here. Now, as you can see, this entire room is green. And what this does is when the power gets shut off, it spawns in a light volume, which is spread around the building. Unfortunately, I can't get precise with it. So you can be right here outside and it turns green. But, it is what it is. I guess you could do multiple lighting volumes and shift it around. You could do it that way, that's fine. But I just did one. So I spawn in the lighting volume with the script, and then you can go to the environment settings, preset, whatever the lighting volume is set to. If you have it set to interior 1 or interior 2, I think I have it set to interior 2. I have it turned up all the way green. So basically it gives off a night vision goggle effect. It's not the best, but it's slightly passable. And it doesn't do anything. Unfortunately, having the lights turn off doesn't affect the AI's visibility in any sort of way, which is really disappointing. But it's just one of those things just another feature to add to the map. Now, one thing I did add in this map that I didn't do in the other elimination maps was adding intel, where the player can go around the map and find intel. Finding intel doesn't really give you any rewards or anything. It's just kind of one of those things like in games where, how many, you collect all of the collectible items or whatever. That's pretty much how it is. We have intel for the briefcase, intel for the laptop, intel for some rolled up maps, intel for weapons case. Then we have bomb. Now I did do a bomb in Elimination 3, and I thought, you know what, let me do that again, but also have other pieces of intel that the player can gather. So total, there's about 5 pieces of items that you need to collect or gather, and those are set up, of course, via scripting. So you go over here, and I'll show you guys the bomb. So we have the yellow spotlight that's illuminating this door. So hopefully the player will see it and be like, oh, okay, what's this? Then they open it, and it's the bomb. And then with the script, it's just a volume. Player walks into it, spawn in a little deactivated hacking sound effect, and get rid of the blinking red light just to show that it's off. But then what ends up happening back at the safe house is we unspawn the 0, and then we spawn in the 1, and then when the player gets back here at the end, it'll say bomb found 1 of 1, and that's how that works. And it's the same thing with like the laptop. It's all set up the same way with the scripting. And I think the laptop's here. So yeah. And I actually added I think the hacking sound effect is for every single intel. It's not just for the bomb. It's just it's just an audio confirmation, or it's just to let the player know that they've collected like an item. It's just a little thing to add. And so that's pretty much it. The only other thing is like maybe some visual effects. I've talked about adding the clouds. I did add some of these like ground smoke that kind of comes off the terrain just to make it seem like it's real dry and like it's kind of blowing in the wind, sort of. Kind of liked how that turned out. And then I guess for other spawners, I ended up, there's actually a helicopter that you can get in the map. It's kind of really off the beaten path and it's hidden. If you get into a helicopter, you fly up, there's some AI that will spawn under you. And that's why this spawner volume is floating in the air. It's strictly for helicopter combat. So when you go over here, there's maybe an RPG on the ground or on the roof. And that's what that's for. I honestly kind of don't like it just because of, again, the unspawn radius is so small with the AI spawners that if you're in a helicopter, it's real easy to just blow right by them and then they unspawn, you know, by the time they even can see you. Now, if you come into the town or into the area and you're just kind of hovering around, you know, that at least adds a little bit of something. But again, it doesn't take much for you to kind of go up and then bloop, they unspawn. Because it's not far away, but the game, according to the game, it's far away, so they unspawn. So that's pretty disappointing. But that is how all of that is set up, and if you set up your bases like this, then it gives you the ability to add more life to your map. And I think here, in this area, if the player is driving up, these 3 goats will spawn in, and you can see them just run across the road. And it's just a little thing, you know. It's just a little thing to add, and it's not something that you expect. You know, you expect playing the map, just, oh, it's a road, just driving around. You're not going to see anything, right? And it's just one of those little things where I'm like, you know what? I'd love to have some goats just run across the road, just randomly. But they are set to unspawn. Oh, really quick. One of the things that I started doing, look at all these goats that I have to spawn in the script, but there's only 3 here. What I ended up doing was I would use one script, right? I'd use one script that I would go ahead and plop in the areas where I want my goats to spawn in. So we have some more goats that spawn over here and run across the road. And I would do that, and then I would put volume triggers around. And then so whenever the player was, you know, going into this volume, these goats would spawn in. It would try to spawn in these over here, but they're too far away, so they would immediately unspawn. So you could set up the AI that way to where, you know, just spawn in all these AI characters and then with one script. And that's another good way to, because you're not using as much scripts. You know, you're not doing a script over here, script over there, script over there, script over there. Just using one script, and you're just setting the volumes, connecting them, and that is it. So that's another thing I forgot to mention. So, and we also, of course, have them set to once per trigger. But that is it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown of Elimination, and I'll, of course, do a playthrough of it very soon for you all. And that is it. Anyways, that's going to be it for this one. You all take care now. See you.